Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, my beautiful, gorgeous queen. How are you?
I'm just fine. How are you?
Wow, you are just more beautiful by the day. I mean, a little older, but more beautiful by the day, I'd say.
Well, I was getting ready to sit down and do this, and I'm in the chair, and I'm like, I don't really know what I look like right now. So I pulled my phone out, and I looked, and I was like, ugh. Okay, well, here we are. So sorry, folks.
Yeah,
This is what you're getting today.
Yeah, and also sorry for me. I haven't showered in a couple days. We're still having that hot water issue. I don't know if we mentioned it in last week's show or not.
Either the bonus listeners or regular, I'm not sure, but there's a leak. Our son's like, of course, it's in my room, of course.
Yeah, the hot water line's leaking, so to take a shower, I don't know. It's been a pain, and luckily I'm going to try to get out to a hotel today for business stuff. Yeah. It's all business.
He's leaving his family so that he can go to a nice, peaceful hotel room and take a hot shower.
I haven't officially booked it yet. I might just go tomorrow morning.
Well, that'd be fine by me because I was saying, this is very reminiscent of when we had our new flooring put down, and it was the depths of hell, dust everywhere. Yep. The kids were supposed to be out of the house while I was at work. My mom did not take them out of the house. It was awful. Our cat was so dusty. My mom was dry heaving.
Our cat was dusty. And my mom was dry heaving. That's terrible.
I was so sick to my stomach. We had no bathrooms available. I had to rush to the gas station to be sick.
Yeah.
And he's telling me about a charcuterie board that he had at this lovely restaurant. I said, do not tell me about your charcuterie.
Why don't we remind our friends about the last hurricane that came through and when we lost power and had to run the whole house off of a generator? Where were you?
I was in Boston.
With your girlfriends. So
but that was a pre-planned trip.
It was. Yeah, so was mine. So I guess we're equal then, aren't we? Oh, that's so funny. Things are funny.
So funny.
Things are funny when Allison does it. Things are bad when Mike does it.
Exactly.
That's a life we lead. That's all right. That's all right.
We were reminiscing about our trip to Chicago over the holidays and just how crazy it was. And by the way, Mike's parents listen to our podcast. Hello, Grammy and Papa.
Hey, Grammy and Papa, if he's there, we'll see if he's listening.
We love you. We were like, oh my gosh, this house is insane. We're sitting on the couch one evening. Mike's dad is falling asleep on the couch. Mike's mom is in the bedroom with the TV freaking blasting.
And just so you know, if you can picture this, my dad falls asleep on the couch. If you're watching this on YouTube, just check out YouTube real quick. He looks like this.
His head is tilted back. His mouth is wide open.
And you think that he's like dead. He actually, I send Snapchats of him all the time because he looks like he's dead.
And so his mom's in the other room, which is very close by in the bedroom. And the TV is blaring because she can't hear very well. It's in Spanish. She doesn't recognize that it's in Spanish. She cannot understand Spanish. So she's watching a show, not realizing. And then Mike's dad sits up in the middle of his sleep and starts talking in his sleep about his baseball fantasy camp when he was part of the White Sox fantasy camp.
Yeah, he just came up out of nowhere like, oh, yeah, back my first fantasy camp. And then he fell back asleep. We're just like, whoa, that was weird.
I'm in the kitchen. Mike's on the couch. We're staring at each other. And I'm like, what the hell?
We got 2 tickets to the Nut House. Well, 4 tickets with our whole family. It was interesting. I mean, we love our family. And luckily you love my family too, which is great.
Oh, I consider your family my family.
Yeah, that's why it's so funny. It's like we're talking about our own parents.
Oh,
basically.
And we would say this to Mike's mom's face and Mike's dad's face.
Oh, gladly. Yeah. And then later the next day, my mom had me come in because she was listening to the TV. She's like, Michael, is this in Spanish or English? I'm like, you have it at super loud levels and you can't tell me if you hear English or Spanish. So I'm like, it's English. You're good, Mom. You're good. Keep on going. And then real quick, did you want to just kind of refer, these are some of our best, closest friends, everybody listening.
I know
right
you're not going to talk about what happened.
And just you don't have to say the exact event that happened.
You are not going to talk about
since
this.
We always talk about what we're going to talk about on the show before, but I didn't mention this on purpose because I want to put you on the spot.
I assumed you would know better.
Yeah, no, I don't. And I just think I want to take advantage of a silly situation. So I got into bed last night and it was late because I was working on some new stuff on the podcast. You guys might notice we have a cold open in the video podcast now.
And it was 1 a.m, which I had already been in bed for hours at this point.
Yeah, so I get into bed and I'm scrolling just like usual. I scroll on my phone for 10 minutes. And right as I'm shutting it off, honestly, I was a little afraid of you because I heard you rumbling. I was like, oh crap, I got to shut off my phone to make sure she doesn't think I'm awake. It's basically like living with your mother, which is nice.
I feel the same way when I've been in bed for a while and I'm reading. I expect you're going to come in and be like, why are you still up?
Are you kidding?
I'm not even joking. I get scared.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, keep it up. So I walk in and I'm watching my phone. I shut it off right away because she moves. And then so it turns out she woke herself up. I'll let her say why she woke herself up, but At the same time, she was angry at me for waking her up with a natural body occurrence. Okay.
He is gaslighting me and all of you. I'm going to tell you this.
There's definitely gaslighting involved here. Okay. So and it's not the gaslighting you're thinking of. So I look at her and and we also have a wind tunnel in our room. So it's just like there's music machines and like
it's
white noise.
It's not music. It's white noise.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of, so it's like, it basically sounds like this. In our room, and so she's just like, and I can hear something because she always gets angry and frustrated. I know she's mad at me for doing this thing, and I didn't know what she was mad at yet. And then it comes over, and I was just like, oh man, I thought one of the cats took a huge dump in our bed, but the cats don't sleep in our room. I thought, I was looking around, I was looking in the bed, I was feeling around. I was like, oh my God. And it just wouldn't stop.
It smelled so bad. It woke me up and I yelled out, why would you fart?
I didn't hear any of this.
It wouldn't go away. I was dying. The stench. I was convinced as well that one of the cats pooped in the room, which they don't do that. But sometimes when our black cat is afraid, he hides in Mike's closet. Yeah. So I thought maybe he did.
I had seen both cats before I went to sleep, so I knew they weren't in there, but I thought it was from before. But I'm like, but it just started. Oh, and she's angry at me when she should be, when you're pointing a finger at somebody, you got 3 of them pointing right back, or 4 of them pointing right back at you.
So I don't know, maybe the Japanese food that I ate for dinner didn't sit well, but I am convinced you are lying to me and it was you.
There's a lot of cabbage in there. That thing, if anything it's going to come out of, it's going to be you. So I apologize to our listeners if you're gagging and throwing up.
Oh my God, it was awful.
And for any male listeners that found Allison attractive, well, welcome to the party here. This is what you get. So, yeah.
This is real life.
Or a female listener. Sorry,
this
anybody.
Stuff happens.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It happens.
And it's going to take a while, but I'm going to love you again someday.
And I always say I have IBS, so I will, even if I'm miserable, I will never divorce you because I cannot start dating someone new and be like, I have to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's like your whole life is going to be talking about finding bathrooms.
Well, that's where I reference this van life videos that I watch, and the people are like, yeah, we can only pee in the van. And I'm like, it would never work for me. Yeah. Because I could be fine 1 second and then running to the bathroom.
Or sleeping 1 second and then waking yourself up from putrid smells.
You guys, I'm so sorry for this. This is so embarrassing.
Feel sorry for me. That's what I'm trying to get at. I have to live with this. All
right. On that note, shall we dive into this horrific cup of coffee? This is a terribly sad and tragic case. In my mind, there's just something about animals, babies, and the elderly that I find to be just so precious and innocent. And when something harmful happens to any of that population, it just breaks my heart. So that's just a little segue into this case. So this is a listener suggestion from Miag and Stephanie. And this is the murders of Russell and Shirley Dermond. So after many decades of hard work and determination, we're aging, but through maybe 5 decades, we've been busting our tails to work and support a family and a household. And then our natural thoughts begin to focus on the idea of retirement. And during retirement, this is a time that might be referred to as our golden years, a time that we are no longer tied to our alarm clock. We don't necessarily know if it's Monday or Sunday because it doesn't really matter.
To me, that kind of sounds a little sad. I always want to have something to wake up for.
The way that I see it is when I retire, because I can't imagine, there was never been a time in my life that I wasn't working because I worked for my parents' company when I was in 8th grade. They would pay me to help them. And then I transitioned to working in college and then my career. So there's never been a time in my life other than the 12 weeks that I was on maternity leave with both of our kids that I haven't been working. So I don't think I'd be very good at retirement, but I'd want to do something.
Well, good news. We're going to be doing this podcast for the rest of our lives. So.
I hope so. Yep. And also traveling. But it would be nice to just not have to stress so much about like corporate America.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for my corporate people listening, I love my job. But I mean, I would love to do this podcast full time. Mm-hmm. That's the goal.
So, I mean, most people would admit that that's the truth. Yeah. So really what we could think of, though, is that A, we'll have enough money to enjoy our retirement, and B, we'll be in good health in order to do so. So in 2014, Russell and Shirley Dermond were enjoying their retirement. They were living in a gorgeous $1 million home within a gated neighborhood along Lake Oconee near Eatonton, Georgia. This is a location about 80 miles southeast of Atlanta.
Wow. And $1 million home in Georgia in like southeast of Atlanta, an hour. That's a nice home.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area, and it's known as Georgia's Lake Country, and it's home of nearly 60 miles of water with Lake Oconee and Lake Sinclair combined.
Oh, it sounds like a dream.
Yeah, I thought of you as I was researching this because we've vacationed several times in Georgia. We live in Florida, so it's, maybe an 8-hour drive. We can get up there, and it's beautiful. There's mountains in Georgia, lakes. We've done both. So the town of Eatonton, which was established in 1808, is surrounded by farms, churches, and historic Victorian homes, and rural roads that lead to this gorgeous lake country, encourage visitors to stop along these tiny little roadside stands that sell pecans, peaches, boiled peanuts. We're in the heart of the South here. So although rural Putnam County has a population of 21,353 back in 2015, during the summer months, though, these numbers would more than double as vacationers flock to this beautiful lakeside communities. So 88-year-old Russell Dermond and his 87-year-old wife, Shirley Dermond, had moved away from Atlanta around the turn of the century to retire to the great waters at Reynolds Lake Oconee. This is a subdivision where they were living. They owned, according to Zillow, currently it's a 5-bedroom, 6-bathroom, 5,800 square foot lakefront home in a wooded cul-de-sac at 147 Carolyn Drive, and it overlooked a cove in a golfing neighborhood on Lake Oconee. So there's many homes within the neighborhood that are not lakefront. Theirs was on the lake, which made it that much more desirable. So the estimated value of the home at the end of 2025 was $2.75 million, according to Zillow, a little less on some other sites.
Man, and what did they do for a living?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So I will say, though, that back in 2015, this house sold for $650,000.
Probably because of what happened, perhaps?
Probably.
Okay.
So in May of 2014, the couple, who were each from New Jersey, had gotten married back in December 15th of 1950. They were only about 7.5 months from celebrating their 64th wedding anniversary. There is something near and dear in my heart for the elderly.
You absolutely love old folks.
I've always connected with my grandparents. I worked in a hospital for 21 years. I love a sweet married couple. I have met countless of them, and I would just ask them, please tell me your secrets. The love and respect after 70 years of marriage is just something that would seriously bring tears to my eyes when I'd be having these conversations. So throughout their marriage, Russell had been in the Navy. He served in World War II. The couple ended up having 3 sons and 1 daughter together. This is Mark, Keith, Brad, and Leslie. They had 9 grandchildren together. So sadly, though, on August 30th, 2000, their son Mark, he died on his 47th birthday in a drug deal gone wrong when he was shot and killed while attempting to purchase crack cocaine near the Atlanta University Center. So after he was shot 3 times in the neck and torso, 28-year-old Shatak Hinnett was arrested. So just very tragic. You work so hard and you have these beautiful children, and then to think that your adult child is gripped with drug addiction.
Yeah, it really sucks. I mean, odds are when you have that many kids, something's going to happen. You're just kind of playing the odds and like addiction or something like that. Unfortunate.
It's terribly sad. So Russell and Shirley were a religious couple, and they put their family above all else. Although Brad and Keith lived in Florida and Leslie lived in North Carolina, during the summer of 2014, just like every other summer, their grandchildren were scheduled to come to Lake Oconee. They would attend summer camp nearby, and then they would visit their grandparents. According to their son Brad, his parents were the most wonderful people you would ever want to meet. So after working in the fast food industry, you were asking what they did for a living, and owning several Hardee's locations in Atlanta. Hardee's, wow. Yes. Shirley and Russell retired from Roswell, Georgia in 1994. So despite their retirement, the couple remained very active. And that's what I would want my retirement to look like. I'd want to be part of, activities and, socializing and traveling.
A lot of pickleball.
That would be wonderful. So Russell was an avid golfer and Shirley was an artist. She was a writer. She loved gardening, playing bridge with her friends. She was known to always complete a crossword puzzle in the morning over breakfast, which is so cute.
You just picture her working on it. No, it's so cute.
And of course, they spent a lot of time with their grandchildren and their family. So their home on Carolyn Drive gave them total privacy. There's tons and tons of trees here. You're not looking at your next door neighbor's house. You're surrounded by trees, and then there's this beautiful lake in your backyard. So they had stunning views of the lake. And since the area was quiet and gated, it gave them a sense of safety that was real because this was virtually a crime-free area. So the last time the Dermonds were ever seen was on Thursday, May 1st, 2014, when Russell headed out to run some errands. This was very typical. It was before dinner and he was just getting some stuff done. So at 2:15 p.m., he pulled up to the Lake Oconee branch of People's Bank. He was transferring money for an upcoming insurance expense. And from here, he headed over to Publix at 2:30 p.m. He was picking up some groceries. He was also grabbing a prescription for his wife from the pharmacy there because she had this upcoming cataract surgery scheduled. So once home, Russell chatted with their son, Brad, as they did most days of the week. You know, when you have elderly parents, you worry about their safety. You want to check in, make sure they're okay. So when Russell and Shirley hadn't shown up for a planned Kentucky Derby party that was being held 2 days after they were last seen, this is Saturday, May 3rd, 2014, neighbors started to grow concerned. So when they still hadn't seen movement from their house 3 days later, they decided to walk over and check on the elderly couple on Tuesday, May 6th at 9:58 a.m. So on that warm spring morning, 72-year-old Margaret or Peggy Wynn and her husband approached the Dermond screen porch and they noticed an unclaimed newspaper sitting in the driveway. So right off the bat, that's, not typical because we know that Shirley grabs the paper, she sits at the breakfast table and works on her crossword puzzles. So Peggy walked up the few steps that were situated between two green bushes, and she entered the couple's home through their unlocked front door. And obviously, she probably knocked and rang the doorbell, and no one answered, so she tried the door. So as she and her husband made their way through the home, it was very quiet. There was absolutely no sign of Shirley or Russell. So when they reached the garage, though, I will tell you this is a horrifying scene. They found Russell's headless body lying on the ground. Peggy immediately picked up the phone and she frantically dialed 911 and she said to the dispatcher, "Yes, hello, I have an emergency. I think I have somebody dead." And she went on to explain that they went over to their neighbors to check on them because they hadn't seen them. They'd been missing for somewhere around 4 days. They only found Russell's body while Shirley was nowhere to be found. So deputies Daryl, Turk, and Barrack Wood responded to the home at 10:09 a.m. and contacted dispatch for backup because they know they're coming to a scene of something. I will tell you, before their arrival, for whatever reason, police initially thought maybe they were dealing with a suicide. So Chief Deputy Blank, Lieutenant John Murphy, and Sheriff Sills, they all followed shortly behind, and they approached the white two-car garage. So at 10:15 a.m., when Sheriff Sills briefly searched the home, he came upon the decapitated body of 88-year-old Russell Dermond, and he was lying on the garage floor behind a cream-colored Lincoln Town Car and a light blue Lexus SUV. So Russell's faded red t-shirt had been partially pulled up, and it was exposing his belly button down to the waistband of his blue and white striped boxer shorts. His boxer shorts were covered in dried blood, and his headless remains were positioned on top of his bunched up robe. This is just so horrifying, so sad that someone did this to this 88-year-old man.
I mean, I can't even imagine. It's just such a terrible situation.
So there were several different colored towels that were lined up at the garage door along the area where the door would close and meet the ground. And it was pretty obvious that these towels were there to keep the blood from seeping out from under the garage door and thus alerting neighbors. So the towels were next to the left side of Russell's body and above the area where his head once was. Now there was just a pool of congealed blood and bodily fluids there. So along the right side of Russell's body were additional towels that appeared to have been used to soak up excess blood from the extensive injuries that he suffered. However, rather than the killer actually doing anything in cleaning the blood, they literally just further spread it around the garage. So while Russell's loafer-style slippers had been haphazardly tossed to the side of his body, his bare feet were splotchy in appearance with blood stains that left a dull trail of blood that smeared from the door to his body. His hands were bruised, they were bloodied, there was a deep gash that had been inflicted to his left index finger. And although his wife was not there were fine strands of hair tangled within the blood, and it's likely that he fought whoever was attacking them to protect his beloved wife of, what did I say? It was 60 some odd years of marriage.
Yeah, it's admirable. I mean, he's an old guy, probably didn't stand much of a chance, but you got to go down fighting.
Right. So Russell's driver's license listed him at 5'5" and 175 pounds, which matched the height and the weight of the victim that was lying on the garage floor. Of course, investigators are assuming this is Russell, but they have to be 100% sure.
Yeah.
So this is just such a sick and tragic fact, but because his head was nowhere to be found, authorities were unable to match the 88-year-old's gray hair and brown eyes to his description.
Sure.
So the gruesome scene in the garage was a stark contrast to the tidiness of the inside of the Dermonds' immaculate home. This was an elderly couple that took pride in their home, and they kept it so tidy.
I'm sure they paid like cleaners and stuff and had, just always up to snuff.
I always think of my grandma's home. She always kept it so tidy, and she was like 93 years old.
Well, I mean, their house was huge, 5,200 whatever square feet. That's gigantic. You need help.
So there was no sign of forced entry or a struggle. Obviously, we know that the door was left unlocked because that's how Peggy and her husband had gotten in. Nothing seemed at all out of place. Jewelry and medications seemed where the couple had likely left them. The prescriptions that we know Russell had picked up from the pharmacy 5 days earlier on Thursday when he was last seen were sitting there on the kitchen counter next to several framed photos of the grandchildren, as well as a small vase that held a single white flower. Their laptop was open. It was sitting on the dining room table. There was an open case that held a pair of glasses. And Shirley's unfinished crossword puzzle sat folded over on the kitchen table with a pencil on top.
That's exactly how I picture it. You take the paper and you fold it over, you have the crossword right there, and you're working on it all day.
So while I was doing this research, I was picturing the scene of the house as well as what Russell was found wearing. He's wearing a red t-shirt, boxer shorts, and a robe. His slippers are nearby. I'm trying to picture, did this happen at night before bed, or did this happen midday, in the morning? What happened here?
Crossword tells me in the morning.
That's what I'm thinking too. So there was a calendar sitting near the phone with Shirley's upcoming cataract surgery noted, as well as a thank you card from one of their grandchildren. A Netflix movie rental return was sitting on the counter near a jewelry bag that had been undisturbed. It had a gray beaded necklace sitting on top.
Oh, wow. Netflix movie rental. Real quick for those kids out there. You used to have to send it back in the mail, back and forth.
Yep.
So that's crazy.
Yes. So this is in 2014. I don't remember what time we stopped doing that. But
I don't know.
I think we were still living in Illinois. So once inside the couple's bedroom, police found the bed that was unmade with the comforter pulled down and over the bench that was positioned at the foot of the bed. And meanwhile, throw pillows were tossed to the side. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is an extremely tidy couple who probably made the bed routinely right after they got up in the morning. Maybe they went and had their breakfast and worked on their crossword puzzle, but I have no doubt in my mind that Russell and Shirley made their bed every single morning.
Because they're your spirit animal, basically.
Yes.
You make your bed first thing all the time.
I do. It just, to me, it puts the room together. And our house is one level, so you see our room very often. It's not like we have two floors that are separating this. So that's just another piece where I'm trying to picture, did this happen at night or in the morning?
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
So clothing was placed on a chair with shoes underneath, and a pair of khaki shorts, a green polo shirt, and dark gym shoes were also in the bedroom. The dresser, which had been recently dusted, held a cell phone and a framed wedding photo. Shirley's slippers had been placed under a pink ottoman in the master bathroom, and on her vanity were 2 black purses, cash, perfume, makeup, and brushes. And since Shirley was missing, Sheriff Sills called on his team to search the lake with the county's patrol boat using drag hooks. Another team was sent to the nearby woods because, like I said, their house was surrounded by woods and trees, and they had search dogs in tow. Although it has never been found, Sheriff Sills believes that Russell's head was likely discarded in Lake Oconee. So after she was reported missing, the FBI offered a $20,000 reward for Shirley. And soon after, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, they launched a specialty-equipped pontoon boat in order to search the lake. So when the GBI State Crime Lab performed an autopsy on Russell's mildly decomposed body on Thursday, May 8th, Dr. Sandra Thomas noted post-mortem decapitation at the base of the neck with a clean cut through the C5 vertebral body and the spinal cord. She determined that his cause of death was from craniocerebral trauma from a single clean cut that transected the cervical vertebral body. Easy for me to say.
Yeah, I definitely don't understand any of that.
So she's saying, based on the information that she has, that it was his decapitation that is what killed him. So obviously his manner of death was a homicide. Based on the fingerprints that were on file from Russell's time that was served in the U.S. Navy, a positive identification was made. Sheriff Sills believes that Russell's cause of death, even though the medical examiner said it was from the decapitation, the sheriff believes that it was from a gunshot wound to the head. And this is because gunshot residue was found on the collar of Russell's shirt. And they believe that whoever did this took the time to do such a horrible thing and decapitate him in order to conceal the ballistic evidence. Because when a bullet is recovered, it can pinpoint a killer. So it's likely that the gunshot wound is what killed Russell.
Jeez.
So deputies were exceptionally concerned for Shirley's well-being, believing that she could have been abducted. Maybe she was being held somewhere for ransom or whatever. So not only was her car at the house, but as well as her purse and her cell phone was there as well. So 10 days after Russell's body was found, 2 men were out fishing because, of course, this is lake country. There are a lot of people out and about on their boats puttering around fishing. So these guys were about 5 miles from the Dermond's home near the Greene County shore of Lake Oconee. This is on Friday, May 16th. So at about 2:24 p.m., they spotted what they initially believed was a buoy that was floating in the water until they got closer to the object and realized that it was likely a body. So when they dialed 911, Dennis Higgs told the dispatcher that he saw what he appeared to be a body that was floating in the water against a tree. And he indicated that he did not want to get any closer. He wanted police to come out. So when Lieutenant Luke arrived at the scene via patrol boat, he came upon a severely bloated and badly decomposed body. By 3 p.m., the rescue team had pulled the white female victim from the water and noted that she had 2 30-pound red cinder blocks that were tied around each of her ankles over the white socks that she wore. The blocks were inside of this bluish-gray mesh bag, and it was held in place by a parachute cord for the purpose of weighing this woman down.
This is crazy, man. This is like Goodfellas type stuff, like mob stuff.
It really is. So according to investigators, though, the way that these blocks were adhered to this female victim's body, whoever had done this had not been a professional killer, because the way that they had been utilized on what ended up being Shirley's body would not have worked, and it didn't work because she was found floating on the surface.
Sure.
So the female victim recovered from the water wore army green capri pants with soggy tissues that were inside the pockets, a brown and tan floral short sleeve shirt, and laced size 8 white Easy Spirit shoes with orthopedic inserts. Her appearance was consistent with Shirley Dermond, who stood at 5'2". So unlike Russell, Shirley was dressed and wearing shoes at the time that she was killed. So using dental records, Shirley was positively identified, while her autopsy was performed by Dr. Jonathan Eidenstadt the following day on May 17th. So he noted that she had been struck at least twice in the head with a circular weapon, likely a hammer, and this caused a skull fracture as well as hemorrhaging in her brain. And her manner of death was homicide, while her cause of death was blunt impact injury to the head. So despite an exhaustive investigation that involved hundreds of interviews, there was absolutely not a single suspect. There was no clear motive whatsoever.
I mean, this has got to be somebody in the family that's looking for some money once their death happens, some kind of inheritance. Got to be.
So when Sills searched Shirley and Russell's financial records, he poured over 8 years worth of records, and he noted that their expenditures were remarkably routine. Nothing was out of the ordinary. Sadly, the community's security cameras within the neighborhood where Russell and Shirley lived were not functioning because they had been damaged during a lightning storm only a few weeks before their murders.
Now, I am biased, but man, get your freaking security cameras working, people. And I guarantee you, right after this happened, they made sure to spend a ton of money on security cameras. That's how it works in this industry, unfortunately.
And, we're talking about a subdivision that has multi-million-dollar homes.
Right.
Like, fix your damn cameras. So Sheriff Sills is confident that both Russell and Shirley's murders were not committed at their home. He also believes that it was not a random crime. So since Shirley had been struck in the head at least twice, physical evidence would have been left behind that was not found at their home. And though investigators believe that Russell's head was removed in the garage based on the blood that was there, they do not think that he was actually killed there, because odds are he was shot, and that's why he was decapitated. There was no blood spatter that indicated that he had been shot in the house. So because Shirley's remains were found in the water and they lived on this lake, both murders could have potentially happened out on the water on a boat. So up until that point, the neighborhood where they lived, like I had said, was virtually crime-free, and it could have been reached by car, foot, or boat. Although there was a guardhouse that was situated at the front of the neighborhood, there was obviously no way to prevent someone from trolling up to the homes via the lake.
Sure.
So based on the investigation, Sills believes that the couple were killed sometime between 4:30 p.m. on Friday, May 2nd, at the time that the mail was delivered, somewhere between 4 p.m. on Saturday, May 3rd. This is when Russell and Shirley missed their party. So as time went on, Sills began to believe that the Dermonds died in what he referred to as a botched robbery extortion, in which they were unable to deliver whatever cash or valuables a bad person or people had demanded from them.
All right. I'm sure a lot of their stuff is in bonds and investment, like not liquid, as they would say. Liquid meaning people with tons of money don't just have money sitting in their bank account.
In an account.
Like they might have, they probably do have more than like us, like a 20 grand, something like sitting in their savings just in case. But like all their big money is out in stocks and bonds.
Right.
And
I always wonder what a rich person like Elon Musk, when he opens his bank account, what number's in there?
A lot of zeros.
Zeros I can't even wrap my head around seeing in there.
Money is not even a thing to him. It's not a worry. There's no bank account. It's just kind of like you kind of magic. You go like, I want a jet, and then it shows up.
So investigators don't believe that Mark, this is Russell and Shirley's son, who was murdered back, I forgot what year I had mentioned, was at all connected to this, because his was just, a drug buy gone wrong.
Yeah.
So their surviving sons and daughter had been nowhere near their parents' home when they were murdered. They each had a solid alibi. They
Thank
took
goodness.
polygraph tests. They passed. They were a really loving family.
Yeah. I mean, well, at the same time, the first, like, look at me. I said that you got to think they're going after money. That's where it is 99% of the time.
Obviously. I thought the same thing when I was doing research. You think about the most obvious thought. Did somebody want an early inheritance? So the children continued to hold out hope that their parents' killer or killers would be found. And when I say children, these are adults we're talking about.
Yeah,
they have
children.
their own children.
Sure.
So in May of 2015, it emerged that there had been a mystery man that was spotted on the Dermond's property around the time frame of the murders. Sills tracked him down, the sheriff, and interviewed him, but no arrests were made as he deduced that it would have been physically impossible for him to have committed the murders, whatever it was. And obviously, this is a case that haunts Sheriff Sills. If he could get this person, he would have. So I believe whatever it is conclusion he came to meant that this person couldn't have done it.
It sounds like this is an open investigation, so it can't be shared why he's not.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Sills is confident that more than one person was responsible, as it is highly unlikely that a single individual had been able to carry out the murders by themselves. So there have been several theories as to who could have been responsible for their deaths. They speculated this New Jersey mob, a drug deal seeking revenge, maybe someone that was tied to their son that wanted to come back around and do something terrible to the family, maybe even a family member. But like I said, the investigators are confident that their children had nothing to do with this. However, nothing ever panned out due to the lack of an obvious motive. No fingerprints were found at the scene, no foreign DNA, no eyewitnesses. They've looked into other similar cases where an elderly couple was murdered, but there have been no cases that are truly very similar to this case. So at this point, investigators are only left to hope that someone will come forward with some sort of information. We all know that killers like to, flap their jaws and talk about what they did. Maybe they've gone out and gotten drunk and their inhibitions are lowered and they might say something damning.
And they have this on their conscience too.
Right. It's on their conscience. And that's what they're hoping, is that maybe someone's conscience will come calling and someone will come forward with some information.
So when you said their finances were very kept the same, and
Yes.
so there was no big expenditure at any point or paying somebody. Okay, that's
Not at all.
And somebody with this size of a house clearly has lots of people helping them. So
Right.
you're going to have maintenance workers inside and outside the house, probably contractors. I'm sure they're very busy updating their kitchens and bathrooms and stuff like that. That's the problem. It could be any of these people.
And when you're thinking about elderly people, if you're somewhere around our age, your parents are elderly and they're susceptible to scammers. And you have to watch out. Who's popping over to your parents' home? Who's talking them into signing X, Y, or Z?
Well, not even scammers, sometimes legit companies too. Like my parents just signed a solar agreement, and now they're on the hook for like 15 years because some dude came in this is zero cost, zero up front. Now they're signed in for 15 years of the solar company, and ADT also took advantage of them and has a new doorbell in there. It's like none of us knew it because they just came in and boom, took care of it right away.
Exactly. So Keith Dermond indicated that what he and his family have gone through in the wake of their parents' murders is something that he would not wish on their worst enemy. Losing parents at the same time in and of itself is devastating. But the fact that his parents were brutalized in such a horrific way, paired with the fact that their killer or killers is still out there, only compounds the pain that they carry. So Keith is frustrated by the fact that the security cameras within their parents' very wealthy neighborhood were not functioning, and how visitors' license plates weren't routinely recorded, and how really most anyone could have driven in undetected. Oftentimes, those guard gates are just there for a show, basically.
Well, like my parents' place, it's like you just say yeah, hey, and they're like, all right. See ya.
It's like, oh, that was really secure. So although, according to Keith, they say that his parents, they obviously lived in a very wealthy neighborhood. They were well off, but they were not super rich compared to some of the other homes. And of course, I pulled up this neighborhood and I was looking at some like $20 million homes in this place.
Yeah, I mean, but everybody listening to this is probably like, well, I mean, $1.5 million home, that's pretty rich. Like if they probably have a few million, that's living a nice life.
But wouldn't a couple be targeted that's in one of the $20 million homes?
Maybe they have better security. Who knows? It's whoever was like the same maintenance people aren't doing all the same stuff at every single house. You just had the wrong person there that wanted to take advantage of this couple.
So he's even speculated, maybe a serial killer was involved. Maybe there was no motive whatsoever than someone being psychotic.
Sure.
So Brad Dermond is left with bittersweet memories of his parents because that, as well as all these unanswered questions in their mind, is all that remains. Because his parents were elderly, Mike and I can relate. You just hear the phone ring at an odd time and your heart catches in your chest.
Like 9:00, my mom will call and I'll be like, oh my God, please let everything be okay. And It's just my mom and our niece like talking to us. It's like, okay, everything's good.
I almost feel like we live in fear constantly. And if you're new to us, my mom passed away a few months ago, so I'm reeling from grief. But he knew that, being 88 and 87 years old, that a phone call could come through at any time with bad news, but never in his wildest dreams could he have been prepared for this type of call. And when he received what obviously he describes as the worst phone call of his life, he had been sitting at his son's baseball game.
Oh, my God.
And he's left to only imagine the horrors of his parents' last moments, the pain and the fear that they endured. That image of Russell clutching hairs in his hands with a slash on his finger as he probably desperately tried to protect himself and his wife. I can't imagine the images that go through their children's heads, and it's so sad. So despite 2026 marking 12 years since the innocent couple were brutally murdered, Sheriff Sills continues to think about Shirley and Russell's case every single day. And he can only hope that new evidence will shed light on this investigation. As years have passed and technology has evolved, the FBI has been analyzing cell phone data, while in 2024, when Russell's clothing was further tested, they did find an unknown DNA sample. So thus far, this sample has not been a match to anyone within the CODIS database. So they're, trying to turn their attention toward genealogical techniques.
Oh, please work.
In order to
That'd be
find
awesome.
the source. So there is a $45,000 reward for information that leads to their killer, and anyone with information is asked to call the Putnam County Sheriff's Office at 706-485-8557, and that is a sad and tragic case of the murders of 88-year-old Russell and 87-year-old Shirley Dermond.
So devastating, especially when you said you got the call. And it's like, oh, did they fall? No, your parents have been murdered.
Were
That
they in
sucks.
a car accident together?
Yeah.
It's so tragic to think that someone did this to this sweet elderly couple that was retired. They like to golf, garden, work on like quintessential grandparents.
Yeah, they did everything. I mean, seems like the right way. They were successful at their business and they worked together and clearly loved each other, and just such a horrible ending to their lives. And I'm sorry to the family, Brad, if you ever listen to this. I was just talking about the first thing that everybody comes to mind.
Right. We weren't saying.
No, of course. So it's just, I can't imagine what they're thinking. Like, this can't be random. This can't just be some random dude who came in on a boat and killed them. Right?
I believe it's what Sheriff Sills believes, in that it was that they were thinking they could extort them out of all sorts of money and realized, oh, that's not possible.
But you could at least probably get $5,000 or $10,000. And you know what? I don't know what kind of guy Russell was. Maybe he's like, hell no, you're going to have to kill me and I'm not giving you jack squat.
It very well could have been.
I don't know what kind of guy he was. If you got any kind of information, if he was like hard-headed or whatever, it's like, no.
Usually when you're successful business people, you're pretty hard-headed and you're pretty determined.
That's what made you who you are. And I give him credit if that was the case. Like, you're not taking any of my money. You're going to have to kill me. And unfortunately, he did. And, oh, man, I'm just so mad. I'm angry. I can't imagine how this family feels.
I can't imagine.
I want to find justice, and you have no idea.
That's the really hard part, is that though this DNA sample that was found in 2024, we can only hope, despite the fact that this person couldn't have committed any kind of felonies because they're not in the CODIS database.
Yeah.
that maybe genealogical databases will lead to this person or people.
And I'm going to have to do some research. I think in order to be in the genealogical database, you have to submit your DNA to other places, not just Ancestry or 23andMe, which is, I think, out of business now. But I think you have to take that DNA, submit it to another place so people can find things. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. If anybody knows about that, if anybody knows, leave some comments. I don't think they can just pull from Ancestry because, like, wherever you might be, because that company kind of is protecting your data. So I'll have to look into it. Anybody knows, please leave some comments wherever you are. We appreciate it.
So the point is, though, that this couple died. Nothing was, taken. Their bank accounts were completely normal. So whoever did this didn't get what they came for.
It's insane. And also, so was their inheritance paid out, like just out of curiosity?
Of course, this couple, I'm sure, had wills. Yeah, of course.
So sometimes during investigations, nothing gets paid out.
Yeah, I would imagine after some time it did.
Because I'm sure
this is 12 years ago.
And then, you mentioned that the house was sold for what, $600,000, even though it's like a $2 million house now.
Yeah,
almost
$650,000.
And it's like, that's because you don't know who committed this murder.
Is it targeted to this home?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane to think about, but somebody knows this house inside and out, or at least enough to kill somebody.
100%. You're talking about an unsolved murder, double murder, and I wouldn't feel comfortable living in that house. What if this person comes back, or what if these people come back?
Well, you got to put up security cameras that alert you, and it's so important. I have alerts on all our cameras in the middle of the night, even if it's 3 a.m. It makes a big ass sound, so I know somebody's moving around the house. So at least I can get up and do something about it.
Yeah, it's so haunting. Sometimes on YouTube, I'll watch Ring doorbell footage, and the things you see on these security cameras are so entirely terrifying. There was this one, it was like a guy dressed in a clown costume, full clown makeup, with a knife, a huge butcher knife, walking from window to window to window, not just walking up to the windows, but actually trying to open them.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, it highlights, like, you've got to protect yourselves. You've got to secure your windows, make sure your doors are locked, have security cameras.
I'm a security camera guy. I sell them to big enterprises, and there's some Amazon stuff that you can buy. And it's not too much, $150, $200, but like you put a couple of those around your house and it'll scan intelligently. And it's not subscribed. Like the ones I use, no advertisement here, but Reolink, REOLINK. It's super cheap and there's no subscription. You just put in an SD card, and I hate subscriptions. I hate when it's like $10 a month for the rest of your life to get your own access to the information you have. I have that all set up everywhere, and I get alerts, and it's amazing. So I would check them out, or other companies, whatever. Just get some cameras, because we're in 2025, 2026. You need some cameras around your house.
Yeah, it's just these are one of the cases. Unsolved cases drive me absolutely insane. I always hated watching unsolved mysteries, as good as that show is, but it's so frustrating that somebody did this to this beautiful elderly couple, and they're not caught. They're not paying for what they did.
And the other thing about it, you can help find these people. Like if there's a car that's driving by our neighborhood, I have video on all of them. So like at least you could have something to give police to help and find people that do bad things.
Sheriff Sills believes that this person came upon them in the lake.
Okay, so then you have a camera in the back, and like people that I actually have installed some very high-end people in Tampa. They have thermal cameras in the back of their house because they're on Tampa Bay. So they have thermal. So if there's a motor in a boat, they can see that motor in the boat, and then the other cameras pick them up. Yeah. So there's options out there.
So the goal is that this case will be solved, despite the fact that we are coming up upon the 12-year anniversary of this. And my heart breaks for Shirley and Russell and their family. I'm just so sorry that this happened to you, and that this person or people are still out there.
Yeah, so sorry. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you know anything about this, please reach out to your authorities, obviously.
So anyway, we thank you guys so much. We hope you are having a wonderful new year. It is officially February. We got through the first month of 2026.
Yeah, congrats to us all. High five there,
High
sister.
Five. Woo.
Yeah, we did it. It's going to be a great year, and we thank you so much for being here. Like I can't stress enough. Just like this is our whole club, our family. Thank you. We love you all. Every single one of you. We love you.
And we try to keep it real over here at the Crime and Coffee Couple podcast. Hence the intro to this podcast episode, which I may strangle my husband.
If you skipped over, definitely go to the right before we go live, like a good 2 minutes, and you got to hear all about it.
When all this happened this morning, I was like, surely he will never talk about this on the podcast.
There was a 50-50 chance of whether you were going to let me happen and you were just going to be like, cut, but you were in a good mood. So you did good. I'm proud of you. And you know what? We're not all perfect.
Don't touch my shoulder.
Okay, sorry.
Do not.
Okay.
And Mike made me a pistachio latte. You're lucky that you've done this nice thing for me.
I will do that every day for you, as long as it doesn't lead to what happened overnight.
God. Anyway, until next time.
Bye.